So you're in a theory class or a rehearsal and someone says, oh, that's just a cadential 6/4. And you're thinking, what? So don't worry. This one's actually simpler than it sounds. And it's something you definitely want to understand as a singer. A cadential 6/4 chord is a specific type of chord that shows up right before a cadence, usually a big, strong, final cadence at the end of a phrase or a section. Now, technically, it's just a one chord, okay, the tonic chord, and it's in second inversion, meaning that the fifth of the chord is in the bass. So if we're in C major, you'd see a G in the bass with a C and an E stacked above it. Okay. But the thing is that to understand why it's called a cadential 6/4 chord is because of how it looks when it's stacked. So the thing is that if you look at this graphic here, you'll see that on that 1/6/4 chord, which is the first chord in the graphic, that you see the G in the bottom. Now, if you go from the G up to the E, which is on top of that chord, the interval of that is a sixth. That's where the 6 comes from. And then if you go from the G on the bottom to the C, that's just above it, below the E, that is a fourth, the interval of a fourth. So you see that when we're talking about 6/4, we're talking about the intervals that create the stacking of that chord. Okay? Now, here's the twist. Even though it looks like a one chord, it's actually functioning as part of the dominant, which is the 5 chord. So think of it this way. You're not hearing home, okay? You're not hearing the tonic, which tells us that it's the end. You're hearing the suspense right before getting home. It sets up a 5 chord, which then resolves to the final 1 chord. So the cadential 6/4 is like the red carpet for a perfect, authentic cadence. So this is how it's actually played. Here's the 1/6/4, and then the 5, and then go into the 1, okay? So that doesn't really sound like home. And it doesn't sound like home because the 1 is not in the bass. That would sound final, but this doesn't sound final. It sounds like it's going somewhere. And then going to the 5, and then finally we get to the home where the 1 is down at the bottom. Okay? So because this chord sounds like tension, even though it's built from the tonic, and that can really affect your phrasing, your breath, and your musical expression as a singer. So if you're singing a line that lands on a cadential 6/4, it's not the time to relax. It's the moment to lean in. The harmonic tension is building, and you're part of delivering that resolution. So understanding this also helps with intonation, especially in an a cappella or choral setting. You'll know that this tonic chord isn't stable. It's heading somewhere. So recognizing a cadential 6/4 helps you shape the line with more drama and intention. And that's what makes performances feel satisfying and grounded. So if this cleared up a theory mystery for you, give this video a like and hit subscribe for more tips that connect musicianship to your performance. And if you've ever felt a cadence without knowing the theory behind it, drop a music note in the comments. See you next time.